Winning the transfer window is one thing. Actually, winning trophies is another. Some English clubs have spent massive amounts of money, signed big-name players, and got everyone excited. Then the season started and everything fell apart. Today, we're counting down 7 times an English club won the transfer window and turned it into a complete disaster. Let's get into it. Manchester United 2017-18. Let's start with Manchester United in the summer of 2017. Jose Mourinho was building his team and United was spending big. They brought in Romelu Lukaku from Everton for £75 million. That was a statement signing. Lukaku had just scored 25 Premier League goals and United needed a proven striker. They also signed Nemanja Matic from Chelsea for £40 million. Matic was a Premier League winner, a player who knew Mourinho's system inside out. Then there was Victor Lindelof from Benfica for around £30 to £40 million, a highly rated Swedish defender who was supposed to be the future of United's backline. United fans were buzzing. This looked like a title-winning squad, but the season didn't go to plan. Yes, United finished second in the Premier League, but they were 19 points behind Manchester City. They crashed out of the Champions League in the last 16 to Sevilla. They lost the FA Cup final to Chelsea. For the money spent and the quality of players brought in, it was underwhelming. Lukaku started well but faded badly in the second half of the season. Matic looked past his best by December. Lindelof was shaky and took years to settle. Then in January 2018, United made things worse by signing Alexis Sanchez from Arsenal in a swap deal. Sanchez became one of the worst signings in Premier League history, earning £560,000 per week and scoring just 5 goals in 45 games. United won the transfer window on paper, but the season was a disappointment. Mourinho was sacked the following year, and most of those signings are now remembered as expensive mistakes. Chelsea 2022-23. Chelsea in 2022-23 took spending to another level. This wasn't just winning the transfer window, this was smashing every record in sight. Chelsea spent over £600 million across the summer and January windows combined. Let that sink in. £600 million. In the summer of 2022, they signed Raheem Sterling from Manchester City for £47.5 million. They brought in Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli for £34 million. Marc Cucurella cost £62 million from Brighton. Wesley Fofana arrived from Leicester for £70 million. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang came from Barcelona for £12 million. They also added Carney Chukwuemeka, Gabriel Slonina and Denis Zakaria on loan. Then January 2023 came and Chelsea went absolutely wild. They signed Enzo Fernandez from Benfica for £106.8 million, breaking the British transfer record. Mikhailo Mudryk cost up to £89 million from Shakhtar Donetsk. Noni Madueke was £29 million from PSV. Benoit Badiashile cost £35 million from Monaco. They brought in Joao Felix on loan from Atletico Madrid and David Datro Fofana for £10 million from Molde. Everyone thought Chelsea were building a super squad. Instead, they had a nightmare season. Chelsea finished 12th in the Premier League. 12th. For a club that spent £600 million, that's an absolute disaster. They sacked Thomas Tuchel in September, replaced him with Graham Potter, then sacked Potter in April. The team had no identity, no chemistry, and no plan. Most of those signings flopped. Mudryk couldn't score. Cucurella was benched. Koulibaly left after 1 season. Aubameyang barely played. Fofana got injured. Felix went back to Atletico. It was chaos from start to finish. Chelsea won the transfer window and lost everything else. Everton 2019-20. Everton in the summer of 2019 thought they were building something special. They spent big and signed players with real quality. Moise Kean arrived from Juventus for £25 million. He was only 19 years old, but already an Italy international with massive potential. Alex Iwobi joined from Arsenal for £35 million. That was a lot of money for a player who never quite made it at Arsenal, but Everton believed in him. They also made Andre Gomez's loan deal permanent after an impressive spell the season before. Fabian Delph came from Manchester City. Jean-Philippe Gbamin cost £25 million from Mainz to replace Idrissa Gueye. They brought in Djibril Sidibe on loan from Monaco and signed Jonas Lossell on a free transfer. On paper, this looked like a squad that could challenge for Europe. Marco Silva was the manager and Everton fans were excited, but the season was a disaster. Silva was sacked in December after a terrible run of form. Everton finished 12th in the Premier League, nowhere near where they wanted to be. Moise Kean scored just 2 Premier League goals all season and looked completely lost. Iwobi struggled to make an impact. Gbamin got injured almost immediately and missed the entire season. Delph was injury-prone and unreliable. Sidibe was underwhelming. Everton thought they'd won the transfer window. Instead, they wasted millions on players who either flopped or got injured. It set the tone for years of struggle at the club. West Ham 2024-25. West Ham in the summer of 2024 spent like they meant business. They brought in Max Kilman from Wolves for £40 million, a proven Premier League defender who was supposed to solidify their backline. Crysencio Somerville arrived from Leeds for £25 million. He'd just won the Championship Player of the Season and looked like a future star. Niklas Füllkrug joined from Borussia Dortmund for £23 million, a German international striker with a great goal-scoring record. Jean-Claire Todibo came on loan from Nice with a £34 million obligation to buy. Luis Guilherme cost £19.5 million from Palmeiras. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was signed from Manchester United for £15 million. Guido Rodriguez arrived on a free transfer from Real Betis, and Wes Foderingham came in as backup goalkeeper. West Ham spent over £184 million. They looked like a team ready to push for Europe. Instead, this season has been a complete nightmare. After 31 matches, West Ham are 16th in the Premier League table, dangerously close to the relegation zone. The managerial chaos says it all. Julen Lopetegui was sacked in December. Graham Potter replaced him but was sacked in April. Now Nuno Espirito Santo is in charge, trying to save their season. The signings have flopped. Füllkrug has struggled with injuries and form. Somerville hasn't adapted to the Premier League. Kilman has looked shaky. Todibo hasn't been the defensive rock they needed. West Ham thought they were building a top 10 squad. Instead, they're fighting to stay up. Another transfer window disaster. Manchester United 2021-22. Manchester United in the summer of 2021 made signings that had everyone talking. They brought back Cristiano Ronaldo from Juventus for £12.85 million. Ronaldo, one of the greatest players of all time, returning to Old Trafford. The excitement was unreal. They also signed Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund for £73 million. Sancho had torn up the Bundesliga for years and was supposed to be the missing piece in United's attack. Raphael Varane arrived from Real Madrid for £34 million. A four-time Champions League winner, a World Cup winner, one of the best defenders in the world. Tom Heaton also joined on a free transfer as backup goalkeeper. On paper, this was a title-winning squad. United had Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, Edinson Cavani, and now Ronaldo, Sancho and Varane. Everyone thought this was finally United's year. But the season was a disaster. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked in November after a run of terrible results. Ralf Rangnick took over as interim manager, but things didn't improve. United finished 6th in the Premier League. 6th. They crashed out of the Champions League in the last 16. No trophies, no progress, just chaos. Ronaldo scored goals but disrupted the team's balance. Sancho struggled badly and looked lost in the Premier League. Varane was good when fit but kept getting injured. The dressing room was a mess and the tactics were non-existent. United won the transfer window and had one of their worst seasons in decades. Liverpool 2025-26. Liverpool in the summer of 2025 spent like never before. They broke their transfer record multiple times and assembled what looked like a superstar squad. Florian Wirtz arrived from Bayer Leverkusen for somewhere between £100 and £125 million. The Bundesliga Player of the Season, one of the most exciting young talents in world football. Alexander Isak joined from Newcastle for £125 million, breaking the British transfer record. Isak had just scored over 20 Premier League goals and was one of the most clinical strikers in England. Milos Kerkez came from Bournemouth for £40 million after making the PFA Team of the Season. Jeremy Frimpong arrived for £29.5 million. Hugo Ekitike also joined the club. In total, Liverpool spent over £414 million. It was the biggest spending spree in the club's history. Fans were dreaming of the Premier League title and Champions League glory, but this season has been a disaster. Liverpool are struggling in the league. They've lost to Chelsea, PSV Eindhoven and Nottingham Forest. Their defensive record has collapsed and the new signings haven't clicked. Wirtz has 0 goals and 0 assists in 11 Premier League games. Isak has been dealing with injuries and can't get consistent game time. Kerkez has struggled to adapt and been criticised heavily. The team looks unbalanced and the chemistry is completely off. Liverpool spent over £400 million and somehow got worse. It's one of the biggest transfer disasters in recent memory. Southampton 2022-23, and now the #1 disaster, Southampton in the summer of 2022. They didn't spend as much as Chelsea or Liverpool, but what makes this the worst is the result. Southampton spent over £50 million and got relegated. They signed Gavin Bazunu from Manchester City for £12.6 million, a highly rated young goalkeeper who was supposed to be their #1 for years. Sekou Mara arrived from Bordeaux for £11.7 million. Romelu Lukaku came from Manchester City for £11.1 million. A midfielder with huge potential. Armel Bella-Kotchap cost £9 million from VfL Bochum. Joe Aribo joined from Rangers for £6.4 million. Samuel Edozie came from Man City for £10 million. Duje Kaletakar arrived from Marseille for £8 million. Mateusz Lis was signed for under £1 million. Southampton fans were excited. These were young, talented players who were supposed to keep them safe in the Premier League. Instead, the season was a nightmare. Ralph Hasenhüttl was sacked in November. Southampton finished 20th in the Premier League with just 25 points. They were relegated. Bazunu conceded goal after goal. Mara barely scored. Bella-Kotchap struggled. Aribo couldn't save them. Edozie was inconsistent. The team fell apart completely. Southampton spent £50 million, won the transfer window among relegation battlers, and still went down. It's the ultimate transfer disaster. They're still in the Championship today, trying to rebuild. So there you have it. 7 times an English club won the transfer window and turned it into a complete disaster. Whether it's bad management, poor scouting, or just bad luck, these clubs learned the hard way that spending big doesn't guarantee success. Which disaster shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.